So now under Queue Manager and above Manage Users is your web portal settings. So when you click on your web portal settings, this is where you'll set your operational store times, we call it store time, for your organization. And right here, you'll hit the lever for the days that you're open, days that you aren't open. Just keep it off. And then here, you could choose the same time every day or a different time, whatever works for you. And set up your hours that way, and then click Save. Now the custom fields you don't have to worry about. That's for an iPad app. Then over here is your kiosk setting. Your kiosk is what we refer to as your virtual lobby. So in your virtual lobby, you have some abilities to customize it. So here is what we call the widget name, and that would be right here. And you can change that and call it whatever you'd like that makes sense to you. And then over here, this is sort of a subheader. And we have COVID-19 precautions, join the virtual line. And so the point of using this particular online kiosk or web kiosk or widget or online portal, it eliminates waiting lines and it's contactless. In other words, nobody has to be around anybody else to get in this line. You can have 30 people at the same time getting into the virtual lobby, and they'll never be in proximity of each other because it's web-based. Then under here is your widget note. And your widget note could be anything. In this case, we're sort of talking about your policy in terms of COVID-19, how you're very conscientious of social distancing, mask wearing, essentially just kind of laying it out for folks what your expectations are. And here you have your color codes. So, right here this is the background of your kiosk or widget, and that is what will interface with your web page. Typically, you want to have it match your web page, or if you have a certain color scheme on your web page, you'll go along with that. And then your next one is what we call your widget background color. It should be probably widget header, but it's this color, your header, essentially. You can slide it, or you can put in the color codes. And then we have what we call our widget title color, and this is essentially your text. And widget store time labels, and that's obviously your times that you're open and close. And I usually recommend that it's a contrasting color to everything else. And you don't want to leave it open all night because you'll actually have people waiting in it. Down here, you don't have to worry about the check-in queue, but if you wanted to have a counter, which would show customers how many people are in line ahead of them, you can add that. We don't recommend ever showing the wait time. It creates expectations that typically are difficult to meet. Folks aren't really as anxious about waiting as they are if they're standing in line. Okay, over here so this is our mobile queuing page that we're going to be, that will be linked. There'll be an option for an account to use. It'll be linked to the opt-in message that goes out. And the idea is that customers don't have to reply using text messages. They can open this link and press the buttons and get the same outcome. It also provides rich content that we can offer our clients so they can do more branding. You can use this for marketing or sales. There's a crawler at the bottom. And also we've been thinking about the challenges associated with what I'd call internal queuing. And that's after folks are brought in to a space and the social distancing capacity is maintained and this flow is managed. However, in certain environments, there's additional queuing that's going to go on. And what I've noticed, there really isn't the same emphasis within the building than outside of the building. And these lines, physical waiting lines, are as long, if not longer, than what was going to be outside the building. So for example, with retailers, I've seen this quite a bit. Big effort on managing people to come into a grocery store, into a big box store, when they see everybody standing in line at the cashier. It sort of defeats the purpose. The idea of this is to create an easy way where customers can actually get into a checkout queue while they're shopping. They don't have to go to a portal or text in. They're going to have this link from their opt-in page. They open it when they get in. They'll be able to click checkout, and that will put them into a checkout queue. They'll get a status of what their position is in that queue, and they'll be encouraged to continue shopping until they're called. And two things that does. One, it creates a much safer environment. It doesn't defeat the purpose of everything we've done prior to that. And it also increases potential revenue for the client. Each minute a customer's shopping, they're spending $1. So that's the approach here, is trying to create a way where we can do internal queuing safe and easily. So for example, they would look like this. So in this case, all the branding you have here, and here you can update your position, request more time, leave line, and then click checkout, and that will put you into the checkout queue. And this will change and say checkout and give you an update to what your position is. This is a similar one. Again, join checkout queue, more time, leave line. It's essentially just a mobile web page. It's not an app. So anybody with a smartphone can open this up. Without a smartphone, they can text in actually a keyword like checkout, and that would put them into the checkout queue. So that's one of the innovations we're working on. Now, I may have covered this in an earlier tutorial, but I'll touch on it again. If you come down to advertising and display, this is where the digital display URL is, and you would just put that into any browser-based monitor, which includes a smart TV, as well as a large computer monitor. And you don't have to purchase any expensive proprietary hardware. No need for digital signage or a media center. It's a web page, easy to maintain. And in this particular version here, we have a couple different versions. This one is a 3-column version, and it has a rotation where you can add like an advertising or an image file. And so, for example, this is so you have the 3 queues, shows you who's in the queue. This is the only one that actually gives you an average wait time, and then the name of the queue and the first 5 people. So it's not as much of a visual virtual queuing display. It's more of a sort of a display light. And you have your crawler here, you can reduce the font, and then the piece of advertising or image will rotate up. And we have another, the linear display is the queuing display. The file is 1200 by 550. Seems to render rather well. And here's a crawler. And so you add your text here as to what you want your crawler to say. And we do recommend using this for using a display. It's very effective. And you usually try to use a contrasting color. And right now I think I'd go with orange. And for that display, I'd probably go with a font size of maybe 25. And then for the other display, it'd probably be 40. And you could also add in a RSS feed if you wanted to have something like that, a live feed rolling at the bottom of the display. Oops. So that's the display and the crawler. And you will tell us what kind of display you'd prefer, and we'll then add the display to your account. And I think I also went over add-ons. These are when folks select a queue, these would be the reasons why they might be selecting the queue. And this just helps the queue managers on the other end to have a heads up to provide better service or be prepared for customers as they come through. For example, like checkout, which is a register. However, it's also a place you can pick up items. So knowing that can be helpful to expedite that process. And then your reports. Okay, any questions? You can just have a link, say, on your website, and that wouldn't be this link. It'd probably be, this link would be within a word. In other words, you'd have something like to access to come into the store, to join the virtual lobby, click here. And they would click through, and then this would open up it's essentially its own website. And of course, it looks really big and awkward here, but it renders very well on a mobile phone. It looks big and awkward here, but actually it renders very well on a mobile phone. And also, we do have the ability for mobile users who want to monitor their position rather than just text messaging. They can click this, and depending on the display we're using, this is a 3-column display. It has like digital signage with it. They would be able to see if they're coming up in the queue in any of the lines rather than relying on text message status change. Okay. So, and take it, put it in here. I usually put the width in like at 400 and maybe 800. Set it up big, but it's responsive once it's online, and then click generate. Here, click here, apply, and you can't really see it, but it's over here. And then what you're able to do is you copy this code into your HTML, and you'll be able to embed your widget in full form. Okay, and then right here is your crawler, and your crawler crawls across your digital display and also your mobile display. And it's another effective communication tool for your customers. There is the ability to add an RSS feed if you want to run like news. We recommend a font of 30 or higher. I usually do 40. And there we go. And then click save. Then if we go back to the display here, click update, you'll see here the crawler coming across this particular display. Okay. Now your advertising and display, depending on what display you want to use, we'll provide it for you, and this will be the display URL. This URL you can put in any browser-based monitor or smart TV, and it will update and display your queues for you. In the particular display that I showed you, you can you can add an image. So whether it's for advertising purposes or communication purposes, 1200 by 500. So for example, and you can add multiple ones if you want. Okay, and then down here are add-ons. Now add-ons are your reasons. So in other words, when somebody's checking into a queue, they'll have a primary queue that they're getting into. So for example, customer service and exchange. Here is checkout. grants virtual lobby. So what this is about is when the customer chooses customer service and exchange, they can pick either exchange or customer service or rain check. What's important about this is that it gives the queue managers who are working on the other end in customer service some insight as to why they're in the customer service line, and they can organize their workflow to be able to support these folks and move things along quicker. So for example, checkout could be the cashier to just pay, but then again, if you're doing like curbside pickup, you could add that there. And that would be important because pickups involves probably a little bit of effort and logistics. So if you know somebody's coming to pick something up and they're fifth in line, you can have somebody get that ready so when they show up, it's done. That moves them through the queue faster. And you just pick whatever queue, and then you add that reason, and that will show up in the drop-down. And here are your reports. You can take a look through those, and we can talk about that afterwards. And that's about it for the setup, and hopefully that's clear. Any questions, please let me know.